Welcome to the Drupal usability meeting on July the 17th, 2026. And the attendees are Thomas Howell and Simo Helston, and myself, Ralph Koller. And we are looking at issue number 2848507, indicate that grouping elements have child element errors for UX and accessibility. In here, you already have provided a list of steps to reproduce, and we're gonna take a look at first at the current state of the main branch, and then we'll take a look what the merge request is actually changing. I'm unplugging my headphones, so I'm also able to illustrate the voiceover output, which is necessary in this case as well. Okay. The first has to be noted that I enabled the extension discovery scan test, and I've enabled the form test module and set the default and admin theme to Claro. So the first test is basically on and you simply have to click the submit button. And as you can see, you get error message, require text field. All the field sets are expanded, and that way it's directly visible which of the required fields are failing. And
VoiceOver on Safari. Form details contains required field test vertical line bread visited link home hit extend create error visited link home required error message content details element expanded button.
are you able to?
You are currently on the button.
Are you able to hear the announcements?
Yes.
Okay. So
visited link home details element expanded button main required text field star required invalid data edit text muting.
as you can see, on the field set, there is no indication that there is anything, and it's simply basically everything in place, everything available. On that kind of pages, I wouldn't say there isn't anything actionable necessary. The next one is basically on here. It's simply, let's say we give the page email URL alias, but we are omitting the prefix with a slash, and that way you'll get an error. And as you can see here,
search issues for all projects vertical line title list breadcrumb navigation heading level 1 create article error message revision menu settings revision log message the script URL alias email expanded button email insertion at beginning of text URL alias specify an alternative path by which this data muting.
As again, the details element with the failing validation check is expanded, and that way it's directly visible, and the error message is pointing. Same with the previous. I would say it wouldn't be necessary to do anything, but on the last example, enter the word bad, save, and you get an error. If you're on here,
breadcrumb navigation heading level 1 group vertical tabs testing breadcrumb navigation heading level 1 group vertical tabs testing error message content information vertical tabs link first group element active tab 4 more items main link second group element bad contents selected second nested element and details element invalid group vertical tabs testing vertical line rush site install web content muting.
as you can see here, there is no indication on that vertical tab that basically there's an error, and that is basically the status quo in the main branch. And now we'll switch to the other one, def ERCR, def mutagen sync. And now we'll go through those 3 examples again. Crap. I'll copy and paste it again. Submit. And on here, the different
org tab group error message and required text area deep required select field is required group. First required text field star required invalid data edit text. Brett muting.
strictly speaking.
You are currently on a text field. Stop loading this page button. First required form details contains required fields test vertical line https:// muting.
One second. Because something is missing here.
Second required text field is required. Visited link details element in second required text field is required. Visited link home lists one item. Details element contains error expanded button main. First required text field star required invalid data edit text. Muting.
As you can see, or here better, a visually hidden label got appended to the field set label. Details element contains error. And that way it indicates basically something for within the oral interface, which is visually not available for sighted users. That is the first one. Then next, add content. Again, we'll add here email, save.
Solve web revision log message. Brief menu set it URL alias contains error alias email expanded button. Email insertion at beginning of text. You are muting.
Again, also for the details element, the contains error label got appended to the label of that details element. That is the next. And now we get to the last and the most problematic from my point of view. Core. And again, we'll enter bad as required. And now save. Yeah, that's the problem. Exactly. As you can see here, the focus is within the required field. But if you, and again, enable
link second group element contains error active tab. Link first group element muting.
Again, the label contains error got appended, but the problem from my point of view is if you have that one in focus, then the other failing tab gets the styling in red. If you are on that failing one, the styling gets removed and only the styling for basically the required field is styled. And also the point that basically, where is it? The other window. The two different states in blue and red have a contrast of 1.6.8 to 1. And if they are right next to each other, like in this case, it might be hard to distinguish for certain people. Usually states should have a difference of 3 to 1 next to each other. So that might be another one. But that is basically the gist and the summary of those changes. So basically, for the within the oral interface, the what's the label again? Contains errors label got appended, and yeah, for vertical tabs, the styling is basically what is changed in that merge request. So that's basically the brief summary. So any questions so far, or already comments and feedback?
Well, one comment is that about the contrast. So I agree that the contrast is quite low, but the second group element does have that icon.
Oh, 1 second, 1 second. Uh, I have to plug in my earplugs, and also I was unable to hear your basically feedback at first because I've muted voiceover and therefore also haven't heard anything you've said. Therefore, sorry.
Okay. So yeah, I agree that the contrast is not very strong, but the second group element does have that icon. So the icon is a bit in a kind of a far from the label, but there is that icon at least, so it's not only color.
Oh, and I just saw Kent also joined. And that's a good thing because he was mainly working on the issue. I've seen, where is the issue again? Too many windows. Yeah. Oops, apologies for the scrolling. Yeah. Most of the last comments were by him. So, hi. Oh, oh. And he writes, I'm not using audio, mostly listening in, but happy to use chat. Okay. So, any other comments?
No comments from me. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, from my point of view, as I've said, for 1 second, I'll try to open a second tab so we have it next to each other. Or I open all the three, though we can jump in between them. And the last is um, from my point of view, the thing which is sort of inconsistent is basically on here, you have basically the wrapping parent element visually highlighted as basically failing, while on here the field set has no indication, nor has the details element, the failing details element in the sidebar, in the advanced sidebar. So from my point of view, that is also inconsistent, sort of, because in particular, in this example, all the three field sets have failing required fields. But if you have basically a very long node edit form and you only have a field failing in one out of, let's say, 5 different field sets, then it's a different story. In here, it would be sort of an overload, but still only the oral interface is consistently labeling failing parent elements, but visually it's only the vertical tab, and that, from my point of view, is suboptimal. And one other small nitpick or detail, which is rather bike shedding and out of the scope probably, but having always the same contains errors. Not sure if it would make sense either to make it, if it's a single error, make it singular, and if it's more than one error, make it plural, or even a count. Oh, one sec. Please close the details element. Ah, okay. Is it the same for? Ah, okay. Oh, that is interesting. Out of curiosity, yes.
Your default microphone has changed. MacBook required details and will now be used. You are currently on the button breadcrumb navigation heading level 1 details element voiceover off.
Something went off.
Voiceover on Safari. Form details contains required fields. Tab breadcrumb details element contains error. Expanded button main. You are currently details element 2 contains error. Collapsed button. Details element contains error. Expanded button. Voiceover off.
Okay, so basically in the Aura interface, that label is, no matter if it's expanded or collapsed, always added. And in here, yeah, and still from my perspective, this one feels odd. That as soon as the vertical tab gets active, that basically the styling is getting dropped there. But, and also again, I'm not sure if you were there yet, Kent. The color blue and the color red are pretty close with a color contrast of 1.68 to 1. And if they are right next to each other, to distinguish them is rather challenging, at least if you're focused just on the two sidebars and the coloring there. So, any further thoughts?
Well, the behavior is the same, whether it's vertical or horizontal, so that's kind of good. It's consistent. but changing where the information is displayed is kind of a little bit confusing in a way that the arrow didn't go away, so it's kind of a displaying where it has hidden information. So kind of there's the indication of color, and then there is the indication of the icon. But also, I think the icon itself, uh, for me, it feels like it's something that is forbidden.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that the iconography could be improved to indicate error instead of kind of a, well, it means it can't continue sending the form. But for me, that like initial feeling is that it feels like it's disabled.
Yep. 1 second, I'm just searching. It's comment number. Uh, yeah, it's comment number 189 by Mike Herschel. I'm not sold on the sign Immo that is don't do this. A red asterisk would be more for you're missing something important here. That being said, reach out to the usability maintainers if you want and see what they say. That being said, I don't think this should hold anything up. We can always change it later.
Well, actually, it's the same icon we have there on the error message. So so it's kind of consistent in that sense. Do we have that always on error messages?
Yes.
Okay.
Or
So
is it on just on warnings? Is I guess is an exclamation mark, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
I'm just look.
Okay. So then it's kind of yeah. Oh, there we have different error. I think we should only have one error icon. So,
Yes.
but that's not for this issue. So it's like
Yeah, but strictly speaking, that X would, strictly speaking, be more appropriate also in the context of this issue then. And it would be
yeah.
then consistent across if you always use the X for actual errors and the exclamation mark for warnings and the check mark for your information and all good.
Yeah. But that would be, I think, replacing that icon in the
Yeah.
Faro theme. So it doesn't require. So it's kind of a separate or follow-up.
Yeah, but one thing. Yeah, strictly speaking, yeah, but this one still puzzles me, to be honest. You're right, it is consistent with the behavior here, but in here you don't have basically a blue marker for the active details element,
Mm.
while on vertical tabs you have, and that's the difference, which makes it because if you have here the focus on here, it's blue, then you switch on here,
Oh,
it
and
becomes
here actually, yeah, the only indicator is the slightly thicker uh, input border, because here it's otherwise it's only color. Now it's lost the icon because that's not required. It's just the So here it's the indication is slightly thicker border on the input, and then it's only color change. So if you go to the first group element,
Yeah.
so here is bold text, and then input. Here it's bold text and input with slightly thicker border. So that's the only thing that changes, because it gets the icon that was there gets removed.
Yeah. Yeah, but strictly speaking, it's still the same behavior because here it's also getting removed.
Yeah, here is just the difference is because maybe because they have they are required fields. So it would be if it would be not required, then it would be the same.
Yeah, but here's the same here. You also have a
Yeah.
required field, so it's identical.
Is that required? It's not marked required. It
Oh,
doesn't have the asterisk.
true. But it's failing, so
Yeah.
that was my thinking.
So I think
Question to Kent, what do you know for that vertical tab example? What is actually failing there? Is it a certain string that is required, in this case bad, or because it is not a required field, as Seymour said. So what makes it fail? Do you? Okay, it's checking for the exact string. Okay. Oh. But would it make sense to keep basically very least the icon in the expanded state? Also on the node edit form, the active items do have blue side borders. Rather the expanded ones. And it also looks like the thickness of that bluish border is thinner than the red one. So also because on here, oops, where is it? Those are identical, while here it's half of the width at best.
so. I think this node page is better because there is the difference.
Difference in what regard?
So there is the thickness. So it kind of it's good that it's different. So it's the blue one is thinner than the red one.
Ah, okay.
So,
So you would
yeah.
say
So
basically
it
make
would
it.
yeah. So here it would add contrast as well. I think I would also it's my personal preference that the icon would be like right after the text or the right after the label, same way that the required asterisk is. So it is. So if you look at the vertical,
Yeah.
no, or the horizontal, no, the other.
In
This
here.
one here, it's kind of gets lost there on the right side, so it would be easier to spot it. It would be there.
Yeah. If you do the straw test, it's a long, long way until you reach basically um, the icon, and you don't know if there is an icon then. Yeah, good point. I agree. Or the question, would it even make sense to front load it? To have the icon and then the label?
I think I'd prefer to have it like afterwards, so that the kind of it's kind of it would step out of line, so it would be easier to notice. But I was thinking about what was on the status page. I think there it was after.
Status page.
No, it's before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it would make sense to have it before.
Just, I mean, if you front load it that way, you provide a visual cue for people that are sighted and are familiar with basically the signage, and that way you don't need to skim or even read the actual label. And that way makes it easier for sighted people to quickly navigate. If you're simply focused on, I want to go to basically parent elements that have errors. The only problem with if you front load it is the indentation in regard of, yeah, vertical tabs that don't have an error then would have to also be indented. And that way the starting point is more to the right and makes it again harder to read that way. Oh, it would be interesting also to see that group vertical tabs testing for a block of more than two tabs. So you see how the behavior is if you have 3, 4, or 5 ones. Maybe if you go to content types, maybe we're able to trigger. No, there is nothing that could fail. In here is also nothing that could be failing, isn't it? Ah, that one. Okay. Hmm. So what are our conclusions? Let's go quickly through it. Okay. Um, so in regard of that red bar, should the red bar thicker or wider than the blue bar? As Simo pointed out in the context of where was it?
The node
So on
edit.
on the node edit, yeah. So should basically that also be applied to the vertical tabs?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Different width for red and blue bars, like on node edit form, advanced sidebars, detail element. Um, and do Thomas and Kent agree, disagree in that regard?
I don't have strong opinions because I struggle to understand fully what some of the impacts are in this stuff. So I support folks who have more experience with the tool set.
Okay. So, so I guess I would label it as a suggestion, not as a strong recommendation. But yeah, I agree with Simo. At the very least, it should be consistent across the different examples and in here. So basically in here, you have a different width on node edit forms, or while on vertical tabs, you have identical width, while on details elements, you only have basically for field sets that are failing. So there are three different examples or three different ways it is played. So it's at the very least inconsistent across all three. And in here, basically through the focus outline, it is hidden. In regard of the point Kent wrote, to me, the thicker border looked out of place, but now I understand how it's better due to contrast. And also, this other detail to note is the page on who can use. If you have red against white, again, for people with cataracts, low vision, direct sunlight, night shift mode, this color is sort of a problem. And yeah, if you have them right against each other, then it's failing across the board. That is a useful page anyway. I can post it in the chat. Okay, so the width is the first point. Then next is basically should the iconography follow the icons used on the status reports page? So meaning in this example, instead of that forbidden icon, use basically the icon with the X, which is probably more appropriate. Might be out of scope for this issue, but at the very least viable for a follow-up. But that is not to us to decide, should be up to the people working on the issue. But do you all agree to make the iconography consistent with the status reports page? So meaning using an X for errors, an exclamation mark for warnings, and a check mark for your information, or okay? Get a thumbs up from Simo. And can't write, that's fine with me, but I don't think we can change the icon at the top without design approval. Yeah, it is just about the type of icon used there. It's not about the design. I also do think that basically that circle with the white cross within it would be viable to use on those admin notices. A different kind of X would be necessary, but in general, it was simply about not using the default admin. 1 second. Uh, am I in the default?
Well, actually, I noticed a postponed issue.
Wasn't installed. Which postponed issue? 1 second.
So there is a misleading icon used on form validation errors.
It's issue number 285991
Yeah. So here it's mentioned that this is like the X icon is currently used on form validation errors, but Not sure which one, so it kind of it's at least somehow related,
Yeah.
but it's kind of been dormant for a long time and now postponed last year.
Yeah, Andrew McPherson basically summarized it. Cross and circle Redis error, exclamation mark in triangle, warning, and tick status okay. Uh, okay. Where is the navigation? Okay. Yeah. The default admin theme uses checkmark for OK. The same strike through for error messages and warnings, probably exclamation mark. Problem is, I switch back to Claro. The navigation was gone for whatever reason. Anyway, that odd behavior is off. Okay, so different width. Then the iconography should follow icons used on the status report. Is the next one. So we have sort of an agreement, but yeah, which icon to take and so forth is up for design folks and people working on the issue. But in general, it's just a pointer that, yeah, it should be consistent. The next one detail is the position of that icon itself, in particular on that form details and on field sets, the distance between the label and the icon is very, very distant and not in close proximity. So should the icon be moved next to the label, either prefixed or suffixed?
Now that I see that opened or expanded icon there, I think it should be like after the label, but it should be close.
And Thomas left. Okay. Yeah. Icon should be in close proximity to the label to the parent element label. But the problem from my point of view is if the label has a different length, then visually it's either a shifting position and not easily to skim through, or if you make them aligned, then you have the problem again that for those parent elements with a short label, you have again a gap, while for parent elements with a longer label, they are closer in close proximity to the label. So that would again provide the problem of a gap. So not sure. As probably to be discussed on the issue. But do we have a consensus at the very least that the icon should be in close proximity to the parent element label?
I think so. Depends on. I think if we two agree, then it's up to Kent. If we have consensus.
Hmm. No comment yet. Yeah, but we could leave it here with the icon should be close proximity to parent label at least to denote that. My biggest problem still is that is that we are already on top of the hour, but just the last question in regard of if the parent element that contains failing fields in here, if that it gets in focus, it drops basically the styling, same as on here, it also drops the styling of red. But the question is, should at the very least the icon be kept? Because at the moment it looks like all is good now again.
Yeah, it could be some sort of like active tab with arrows. It could be a state. So then at least I think the icon should be there. And it could have like kind of the thick border, whether blue or red. So keeping the icon and keeping the thick border, if we can add that, then it would kind of at least be something.
Yeah, but I wonder, would it make sense to simply keep the red styling? Because that field set wasn't saved. The error persists due to the fact that the childs have errors still. So
Yeah.
it
So here,
is.
yeah, I agree in that sense that it would make sense, but also here in this version where they're on top of each other, then we have that up down arrow signaling which one is open, but on the tabs, like the other vertical tabs, then we don't
Wait,
have that one. So then the indication would be that like the missing right border. So it's
yeah,
so then I think here it would uh, be useful to have more so that like to show that which one is open. But I think it would be it would still be better to keep the red like the error styling because it would still like if we have two with errors and two two vertical tabs with arrows. So how to distinguish which one is open? So then it wouldn't be the only difference wouldn't be the missing border.
1 second. Now we have three.
Yeah. So here, if it would keep, like if you move the mouse away so there won't be hover effect, then and select one of the ones with error. And then, so here, if it would keep the error styling, then the only thing would be the missing border, indicating that which one is open.
Yeah.
So it would.
Yeah. And how to communicate that?
Yeah. So that would be, I think it would need like missing, like here it kind of would feel intuitive to have the icon missing because what the icon indicates, it's shown on the right hand side, on the same side with where the icon is missing. So it kind of opens the flow to the tab content. So it's kind of here it would gives the feeling that the like the tab content is like that error icon is minified version of the tab content that has error. So it kind of gives that kind of a feeling to me. So here, but then it would need like if it would be kind of with the error styling and missing that icon, but it's not it's not universal. It's just my feeling.
Yeah, but on the other hand, in the Aura interface, you always have the contains errors appended
Yeah,
at the end. So you have always welcome contains errors. Welcome, no
yeah,
approval required. You have errors. So it's tricky.
yeah. But it does have that active, like what the current
Yeah,
was.
true.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's something that needs to be included also with the visual interface.
yeah. Which is the active tab is not communicated with errors in place. Yeah, that needs thinking then. But yeah, but in general, so in particular for something like that, keep basically the styling no matter if it's expanded or collapsed.
Yeah.
And the only real problem is basically vertical tabs. And there has to be a way to communicate the active tab in
Yeah.
case. Yeah. Okay, then we have an agreement. And the very last question from my end, is it bike shedding or should it be communicated in the Aura interface if it contains errors? Is singular or plural, or should we even a count be added? Is it useful or too much verbose information?
I think it's not important to know because it like it could be, then it would be one error, two errors, three errors, but then errors are not always comparable, so they might be one big error or then three just very small errors or something like that. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Which is active. So we have basically 1, 2, 3, 4. Summarize simply a different width for red and blue bars, like on node edit forms, advanced sidebar details element. Iconography should follow the iconography for status reports pages. Icons should be in close proximity to the parent element label, and the active tab in the context of the vertical tabs should be communicated, in particular if you have more than one error. That losing and the styling should be kept when collapsed, in particular for field sets and the details elements in the advanced sidebar. And same as for in here. Okay, so those are the 5 points we came up, and I guess we can revisit it with Benji and hopefully more people are here. And also see what other perspectives come up on the issue itself. And I'll try to write up a summary, but with my eyes, the last few days were a bit troublesome, or weeks. So might take another 2 or 3 days, probably because I have also to finish the one from last week's still. So yeah. Anyway, sorry for it took 10 minutes longer, but thank you for coming all. And hopefully see each other next week. And I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you and have a nice
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah, have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye bye.